The team that you won the Super Bowl with won the Super Bowl because
we had a great defense that kept us above water. We had a rookie quarterback that played well enough and maintained the game, who could hand the ball off to two of the best running backs in the league, Jerome Bettis and Willie Parker. That's basically why we won the game.
So you look at this Eagles team now, and you realize what you went through to win a world championship, a Super Bowl. How far are they? When you look at the pieces they have, is it one here? Is it, hey, the obvious one for fans would be Bradley Fletcher. You got to replace him. Is it that easy? What does this team need to get to where you once have been?
I think this team is basically a half a dozen players from being a championship caliber type of team. It just so happens that the position that need the most help at is quarterback, because at this point Foles is not stepped up and being the franchise quarterback we expect him to be. Because, I mean, come on, Mike, stemming from last year at this point when we talked about the Philadelphia Eagles, we weren't thinking the Philadelphia Eagles were looking for or in the business of trying to find a quarterback. We thought we had a franchise quarterback in Foles. What we talked about is the lackluster play of the defense. We thought that we needed a defense. So coming into this year, we're basically saying, all right, we don't have a quarterback, and also we have a pretty good front seven on defense that lacks only 2 or 3 players. And when I say, 2 cornerbacks and a safety from being a dominant defense.
LaShawn McCoy has come out. Basically, he was asked on the NFL Network, hey, there's a lot of rumors about you guys going up to get Marcus Mariota. What do you think? And he said, I like him, but we already got a quarterback.
He's supposed to say that,
Well, yeah, of course. But I guess the question would be, you just said the quarterback position, how important it is. If they upgrade their defense, let's say this offseason, they say, look, we're only paying Nick $660,000. We're going to upgrade the defense this offseason. Could they win a Super Bowl with Nick Foles?
Yes, they could. He's a good enough quarterback. He's realistically, he's a starter. He may not be a franchise quarterback, but he is a starter in the NFL. I think he's good enough to go out and make plays. He's good enough to make a team good. He just can't make a team great with his play. And it's a difference. At the point when I won the Super Bowl, Ben was just a good quarterback. He wasn't a great quarterback that he is now. He was a good quarterback. And you can do that if you have the other intangibles like a dominant defense to back him up.
Okay, I've compared Foles, not his style, not his arm, not his makeup,
mobility,
to an Andy Dalton. Meaning,
pretty
you
close
can
evaluation.
win in the league with Andy Dalton. You can win your division. You can win 10, 11, 12 games. But Andy Dalton can't win in the playoffs because that's where you get exposed. The best 8 teams are in those playoffs, or the best 12 teams are in those playoffs. I say 8 because if you want to really get to the Super Bowl, you got to get to that final 8. You got to get past being a wild card team. You got to be a division champion. So Andy Dalton's been to the playoffs how many times, and he can't beat those defenses. And even if he does beat those defenses, can he do it multiple weeks in a row? And I think that's what Chip Kelly realizes with Nick Foles is, yeah, I can win 10. I can get to the playoffs. I can go to win a division. But can I win against playoff caliber teams 3 straight weeks if this guy's my quarterback?
Well, he understands that the limitations that Foles has to offer. Now, most people would say that Foles is a system quarterback. Well, people don't understand that Mariota is the same cog that fits in a system. He is a system quarterback to the T, even more so than Foles. I think Foles can go to another team and be very adequate in running that team and becoming a pretty good team. I think that Mariota is a guy that fits only a certain amount of systems. There's only a certain amount of offensive coordinators that can really take advantage the type of quarterback and skill set that Mariota brings to the table. Like I said before, I work for ESPN also. I am a producer. I'm a content producer inside, and I did 2 games. Actually, this year I did 2 games for the Oregon Ducks. I did the game against Utah, and then I did the Civil War, Oregon against Oregon State. And in both games, Mariota played a dynamic game within the realm of what that offense allowed him to do. At this point, I don't think that Mariota can read defenses necessarily like an NFL quarterback. I think Chip thinks he can, just because with his system would only predicate him to throw to different places at different times. He's not a quarterback yet that he can throw into a space or throw a guy open. He's not that good of a pocket passer to do that. But then you go around and say, oh, Russell Wilson isn't either. Well, Russell Wilson's a different type of guy because he fits well with, being outside of the system also. He's a guy, you put him in a drop back pass, he'll wait until the pocket breaks down, and then he finds his throwing lanes because he's a shorter guy. So he's an organized chaos type of player. He's just a dynamic player. Mariota has the same capabilities, but I don't know at this point that he can throw guys open and throw, touch passes that he's going to have, because they're not going to be running wide open like they did when they're playing against Oregon. These are NFL caliber players. He's going against Pac-12 teams where they only have 3 All-Americans on the field against him. When he gets to the NFL, everybody's an All-American. He can't throw guys open. They won't be running open like they did in college.
And a lot of scouts are starting to say that. Like, hey, once he throws, you're going to start to see what we're seeing right now, that this guy is not the be-all, end-all. But that being said, Chip Kelly, there was an article in the Oregonian. I don't know if you saw this. Somebody wrote out there basically that Chip Kelly needs his ideal quarterback. If this is what you hired him for, you can't just hire him to be the football coach. You got to hire him to be the football coach with his ideal partner, which would be a quarterback, maybe Marcus Mariota. So, would you include a guy like LaShawn McCoy in a trade if that's what it would take to move up to get a guy? Now, you said you've seen him live multiple times. Is it worth giving up a guy like McCoy? It has been suggested that it would take a first-round pick this year, a first-round pick next year, a second-round pick this year, and somebody threw the name McCoy into the mix.
I've also heard Cox also being thrown in the mix, either Cox or McCoy. I don't know, but I'm not a GM. But at this point, the Eagles don't even have a GM. So, what do you do
Why don't
there?
you put your resume up there?
But, and that's even another topic, we need to talk about. What kind of GM is Chip going to be? Or are they going to hire a guy that's going to be a yes man? Are they going to is Chip going to be a guy that's going to be a system guy? We're going to find a guy that fits a system that, may not be as good as a dominant, talented player. What type of guy is he going to be? Marcus Mariota fits his system, will work in his system well, but how far can his system even take you? As you can see, Oregon's system, which is the same system Chip is basically running, made it to the championship game and lost. This is the second time they've done that. Can his system win a Super Bowl? That's yet to be said. At this point, we say no.
What do you think?
At this point, no, I don't think so, because without the basic...
somebody said on our air last week, before you comment on that, he asked the question, is this a stat-producing offense or a Super Bowl offense?
It's stat-producing offense. It's a stat-producing offense. They put up 29 points a game, but yet only had 10 wins.
Keep this in mind, though. 29 points a game. They did score 11 touchdowns that were either special teams or defense. That's 77 points. That brings you down to 24 points a game.
24, 23 points a game.
Which puts you in the middle of the pack.
And in saying that, without a dominant defense, you can't continue to think that you're going to win week in and week out with that type of defense unless you upgrade on defense. Without the upgrade on defense, this conversation is all for naught, because you cannot go into the system. Because if you get Mariota, and what if Mariota pans out and now you're scoring 32 points a game, 34 points a game, as opposed to the defense staying the same? You got Fletcher and you still got Williams out there getting both burnt and toasted.
Well, let me say this then. Let me ask you to get your opinion on this. Look, Fletcher, I think, yeah. Here's the problem, though. If Fletcher and Williams won a Super Bowl.
Absolutely.
He was on a defense that won a Super Bowl.
But so he had a dynamic safety behind him. He had Ed Reed behind him, which takes away, just like Revis. Revis did the same thing for Chung. You got a shutdown corner, you have a guy over the top of him, he's going to get paid because Revis makes everything, he cures all the L's. Well, at that point,
I agree.
Williams had Reed behind him, which cured all his L's.
I got you. But so my point is this, though. You got Williams. He's proven that you can have him on the field and win a Super Bowl.
I'll take him. I'll even take Allen back.
Now, Fletcher, I'm not sitting here backing Fletcher up. by no stretch of the imagination. But if I tell you Fletcher's on the field 48 plays as opposed to 68 plays, that's 20 extra shots you get at a guy who stinks. Their offense is almost their own worst enemy because they got an average defense, and their offense allows their average defense too much time on the field.
And I think they had maybe 200 more snaps than the next defense under them. And you can't win with those type of numbers.
That, 200 extra plays that Bradley Fletcher is now getting picked on.
That's essentially for the defense playing in an extra 3 games. 3 games.
It's unacceptable.
Unacceptable. Each defense probably averaged 68 to 70 plays a game. Now you're putting your guys out there 3 added games that they're playing because your offense is scoring too fast or a lack of production as far as 3 and outs. This is a rhythm-based offense. As long as they're in the rhythm, they'll put up a lot of points.
And it's hard to get in a rhythm against Seattle, Arizona, San Francisco, the teams that play good defense that you're going to see in the playoffs. It's hard to get in a rhythm against them because they got good defense.
Exactly, So how many teams did the Eagles at this point win that had a pretty good defense?
None.
Thank you.
I mean, if you want to ask in all seriousness, look, in the 20 wins that Chip Kelly has over 2 years, I mean, they beat the Colts on the road. That's a decent win. Now the Colts were one of the final four teams. Other than that, I got nothing for you, man. I got no win that I could say, you know what, that's a game that was an impressive win for them. I mean, yeah, they went down to Dallas and won that game on Thanksgiving, but that's a division game. You take them out of the mix sometime. I mean, fluke things happen in division games. You know each other pretty well. You got a lot of tape on them. The Eagles have not beaten a team that has impressed me in the 2 years that Kelly has been here. And I hate saying that, because I don't want to sound like I don't like Kelly, but I think this team has – I said this, and I want to get your takes on this. We're live here at the Golden Nugget. Mike Gill, Super Bowl champion Barrett Brooks. The Reed 12 team was 4-12.
Yep.
But I don't think they had 4-12 talent. They had a lot of injuries on that offensive line. McCoy got hurt. Jackson got hurt. They just, I think, mailed it in by the end of the year.
Oh, that's exactly what happened.
And you're playing with Foles, a rookie quarterback. And then Kelly comes in 13 and he gets them to 10 wins. So all of a sudden, he looks like
Wood Reed's players, though. Wood Reed's players.
Right. So all of a sudden, he looks like he's some genius to get them from 4 wins to 10 wins. But realistically, I don't know that the team he inherited was a 4-win talent team. He got that offensive line back, and that offensive line might be one of the big reasons why they won 10 games last year.
Well, if you look at it, this is not Chip Kelly's team at this point. It's still Reed's up until now. Now, what he's brought in, there's only really 2 players that have really made a substantial difference in playing at this point. And that was Lane Johnson and Matthews, receiver.
Jordan Matthews. I thought you'd say Casey Matthews.
Jordan.
I was about to punch you in your face.
Yeah, exactly. you know I wasn't talking about him. You know for darn sure I wasn't talking about him. So when you take those 2 players out of draft-wise. So when you take those 2 players out of the system, who do you see as far as what he's brought in? Now, yes, he did bring in a quality safety in Jenkins, who everybody thought was just like a bad idea. But I knew that he could come in and play with Chip because he's a guy that he was a corner at Ohio State. He understands how to play. He just didn't have the hips that a quality corner could have in the NFL, so that made him a great safety. I knew he had the ability to play above and beyond what they brought him in for. He did bring in Sproles, but Sproles can make anybody's offense look good. That's why the Saints missed him so much this year. That's why they suck so bad. But other than that, as far as talent level, as far as bringing in the draft, I mean, I'm still dumbfounded on their first-round draft pick last year. How could you not come on a field? I don't care what type of project you're on. You got to play the special team. You got to make some kind of substantial impact being a first-round draft choice. He showed nothing.
the drafting is what really scares me, that he's going to be the guy pulling the trigger on the draft now. And these rumors about, he wanted to draft Jordan Matthews in the first round. And then you have people that say, well, that's fine. He would have been better than the first round pick you got. It's not about that, though. It's about the value. And you could have got Matthews in the second round, which you did. And if you didn't get Matthews, there were other guys equivalent to his talent. You could have got the kid Devontae Adams that went to the Packers.
Exactly.
So you didn't have to reach on Matthews, because if you don't get him, there's other guys comparable.
You still had Coles and the other guys still rushing the passer. At the end of the day, that Connor Barwin, those guys played well enough that you could have still hit him, because they end up playing the rest of the season anyway. They played the rest of the season anyways. He didn't get an opportunity to play anyways. Even with
to the point where they changed his position.
Yeah, even D'Amico Ryan's coming out. He still didn't see the field. We played with Casey Matthews for a whole season. Now, come on now. If you can't beat Casey Matthews out, he didn't get the gene that the other Matthews had. No. But yet and still, he could not break. Matthews could not break. He couldn't. Marcus Smith could not break the starting lineup. Come on now. At least get some snaps.
Well, and here's what the big thing is. Here we are with no GM, Chip's running the ship, Howie's out of the mix. How about the little moves? All right, who makes the move for Cody Parkey? Who makes the move to get Bryce Brown traded and gets a fourth-round pick in return? I don't know that Chip Kelly is working out those minor type of deals in the middle of August when he's working on his game plan. Howie's working the phone and saying, we need a kicker. And I got to imagine he makes that deal, right?
I'm going to tell you the truth. We're not even saying, we're talking about the pro player personnel.
Mm-hmm.
Who was his name again? The pro player personnel they just fired?
Oh, Gamble.
Well, Gamble. Pro player personnel are the only guys that made substantial. So the pros that they brought in, not the draft players that they brought in, made the substantial difference. So Gamble brought in all the players that played. Parkey, because he was in the pros at the time, so he was the guy that Gamble brought in. Sproles, Jenkins, all these guys made substantial differences. Not the draft players that Howie Roseman brought in. Those guys didn't play that much. Although he negotiated, I think Gamble had more to do with those guys coming in from a pro side. Yes.
But do you think Roseman was overruled on draft day, or was he kind of just like?
I think he was overruled.
Because everybody wants to know who picked Marcus Smith. Who's responsible for that pick? And to me, that's got to be Kelly. Because if Roseman is telling Kelly, look, you don't have to draft Jordan Matthews here. You can get him a little bit later. That tells me, hey, I'm just giving you advice. You take who you want to take, but I'm just letting you know you could probably get him later. So if you like somebody else, take that guy.
And we all know that Chip is the smartest guy in the building. Now, how is a guy like Howard Roseman going to overstep and overbound what Chip Kelly says in a meeting? I can't see that happening. I know Chip personally. Chip knows he's the smartest guy in the room because that's what he tells everybody, So at the end of the day, I can't see Howie Roseman being able to tell Chip, no, we're not getting this guy. You're going to get this guy.
There's a lot that spins off this story. How about McCoy? He's 27. $9.7 million next year. A lot of people talking about restructuring, maybe not taking less money, but just moving his money around. There are some that would suggest that he didn't play this well because he was saying, they got rid of Jackson, why wouldn't they get rid of me? And almost like trying to protect himself.
Well, that could be a possibility, but, I think it was more to do with the offensive line not being put together and they're not playing as well as they played the year before, and that's why he didn't get the most yards. Because at the end of the day, your offensive line dictates what type of runner you are and how you're going to run the ball. Number two, if there was a scenario that I could have in my head that rearrange, yes, Philadelphia is the city of brotherly love. We give everybody a second chance. I remember Kevin Johnson was selling beer in a liquor store in L.A., and, Ray Rose brought him in. The city took him in with open arms. He ended up, being a Pro Bowl type of player, defensive tackle. We brought in Michael Vick. He played lights out, and played well enough that he rejuvenated his career. Why not take a bet on Ray Rice, giving him an opportunity And that'd be the only scenario which I think they would leave a Shady McCoy out there as trade bait to get a Marcus Mariota to get up in the draft.